Tarsier Studios, the minds behind the first two Little Nightmares games, have stepped away from the series and poured their eerie creativity into a new project called Reanimal. Meanwhile, Supermassive Games took the reins on Little Nightmares 3 last year. That game landed somewhere in the okay zone for me, but something really did feel missing, like the spark that made Little Nightmares 2 linger in your thoughts. That shift has led to a lot of fans preemptively calling Reanimal the real Little Nightmares 3, the spiritual continuation we were all hoping for. So the big question hanging over this video is pretty simple. Is Reanimal actually better than Little Nightmares 3? For context, I played the entire game in co-op with the same friend I dragged through Little Nightmares 3. Shared panic, shared puzzle solving, and a fair amount of killing each other whenever given the opportunity. That co-op perspective shaped how we experienced everything that you're about to see, from the atmosphere to the mechanics to the occasional technical hiccup. If it interests you at all, I was the boy character and he was the girl character. You begin the game on a boat in the middle of the ocean, with the sprawling sea shaking your insignificant boat around. You pick up your partner from the depths and set sail until you reach a beach, slick rocks glistening under a sickly sky, and a colour palette that leans hard into bruised blues and damp greys. Tarsier's art direction thrives on decay that you can almost smell. Fabric looks waterlogged and heavy, metal surfaces bloom with rust, and every lantern glow bleeds into the night rather than cutting through it. It is a gorgeous kind of ugliness, the sort that makes you slow down just to take in the texture work and appreciate the way that distant structures loom like half-remembered nightmares. The camera continuously plays a huge role in selling the mood. It glides to frame silhouettes against pale horizons, then tightens in cramped interiors so that you feel boxed in by warped floorboards and sagging beams. It manages to make you feel both insignificant yet also claustrophobic. In co-op, there is an extra layer of tension because both kids have to be on the screen at the same time. If one of you waits too long before progressing and the other one pushes forward, the camera will refuse to follow and the game will punish you with a sudden death. It turns simple exploration into a sort of constant negotiation of space, like the screen itself is a fragile lifeline you're both having to cling on to. Then there are the creatures. The first major threat is a creepy man, a figure that looks almost like a person but quickly falls apart the longer you watch him move. His limbs hang a fraction too long, his posture just folds in on itself, and his head tilts at angles that feel mechanically wrong. He walks with a stiff marionette-like gait, as if each step is being tested before it commits to the floor. You can tell what he's supposed to be, but the proportions and motion are just off enough to make your brain protest. That uncanny quality makes hiding from him far more stressful because you can't rely on familiar body language to predict what he'll do next. You'll move to a hiding spot only to get caught because you didn't expect him to look in your direction, and now you're looping him like it's Dead by Daylight. There's also a few other cool enemies in the game that I'm not going to spoil all of them, but I will say that the spider thing is also pretty mad. It has a general shape of a large animal, but its legs are really thin, they're too jointed, and they articulate in a way that feels assembled rather than grown. The body looks heavy while the limbs look brittle, which creates a very disturbing mismatch in your mind. When it moves, there's a faint hesitation between its placement, and you understand the inspiration behind this thing. It even just has like a big hole for a face. It's really strange, but the execution is warped enough to make you feel really unsettled whenever you're looking at it. This, to me, is the biggest area where Reanimal excels over Little Nightmares 3. The enemies in Little Nightmares 3 did not have this uncanny quality to them, in my opinion. I felt they looked a bit too real, and discussed this at length in my Little Nightmares 3 video last year, which you should definitely watch after this one, by the way. Stealth in Reanimal sits at the heart of the experience for the most part, but it does lean more towards observation and timing rather than raw panic. Most encounters revolve around reading sort of where the enemy that's looking for you is going to go. The enemies rarely sprint at you immediately after spotting you. Instead, they sort of look at you and think, hang on, is that you? And then they move, so you seem to have a lot more leeway once you get caught. The flooded laundry room with the washing machines is a great example of how this game uses stealth well. The area is full of water, and walking on water makes noise that will alert the enemy. But if you time your movements so that you move at the same time that the washing machines are on, the sound will get drowned out. There's also a very strong emphasis on shared awareness with the co-op. You and your partner do need to coordinate distractions with the ladder climbs and the door interactions without drifting out of frame. You both need to move through these areas at the same time. One person edging too far can completely mess everything up. What keeps the stealth from reaching Tassier's most nerve-shredding highs though is how forgiving the detection feels, which I alluded to beforehand. Enemies telegraph their search patterns, the hiding spots are pretty generous size-wise, and escape routes are usually pretty close by. You're thinking and adjusting, but you're rarely doing it whilst sweating that you're going to get caught. It's thoughtful stealth rather than desperate stealth. One thing that is also worth noting is how sparingly these stealth ideas are actually used. Just as you start to settle into the rhythm of watching the enemy and timing your movements, the section is over. Many of the stealth sequences are very brief, and the game quickly moves you on to the next thing. That pacing does keep things a bit varied, I suppose, but it also means that the mechanics rarely have time to evolve or stack into more challenging ways. You get a taste of something clever and then the curtain falls, before you really ever feel tested. Chase sequences in Reanimal arrive in short and sharp bursts as well, but again, there are far fewer of them than you might expect. When they do show up, they are staged beautifully, with sort of collapsing walkways, creatures tearing through scenery, yet the actual execution is surprisingly forgiving. Windows for jumps are very generous, the obstacles are always clearly telegraphed, and you're rarely punished for anything other than outright stopping. Compared to Little Nightmares 3, where some chases felt rhythm game strict in their timing, Reanimal swings the pendulum the complete other way. You're still running for your life, but it's more of a brisk panic jog than an all-out scramble. The feeling of surviving by the skin of your teeth is all but absent here, other than a few moments. That accessibility extends to the broader gameplay. Platforming really sticks to the basics, lining up jumps across gaps, boosting each other up in co-op. The puzzles follow a very similar philosophy. You're turning wheels to open paths, and doing very little else. Solutions are usually very readable upon a first glance, which keeps the pacing smooth again, but means that you're seldom stuck scratching your head. The boat sections are a nice change of pace though. One player steers the boat while the other handles the camera and a mounted harpoon. Scanning the murky water for threats and obstacles is a neat bit of asymmetrical co-op that forces communication without really overwhelming either of you. You're calling out directions and adjusting aim, but you're not really challenged again. Like the rest of the game, it invites you in rather than pushing you away, which makes it very easy to pick up and play even if you're very new to this style of puzzle platform horror. I must say, as much as I did enjoy playing through Reanimal as a whole, and as much as I am a huge fan of Tassier's work, I definitely expected more here from a purely gameplay and challenge standpoint. Before we get into the story stuff though, if you are enjoying this video, then may I interest you in a cheeky subscribe, as it would make me a very happy boy. Thank you very much, but let's talk about the story, because if you've played anything from Tassier before, you already know what you're walking into. The narrative isn't laid out neatly, there's no clean lore dump, instead you get fragments, flashes of war imagery, references to sacrifice, scenes that suggest calamity, but never a full explanation that ties it all together. You and your friend, or you and the AI, play as a boy and a girl who are seemingly trying to save all of your friends who are trapped by certain creatures and beings throughout the world. That is how it seems, but again, there is a lot going on in the subtext. The game throws some really striking visuals at you and then moves on. It doesn't pause to clarify who started what, why certain events are happening, or what the larger conflict even is. You're expected to absorb it, to sit with it, and to draw your own conclusions, based off the breadcrumbs the game gives you. And to be fair, I think that it works at what it's doing. There's a late game sequence that genuinely stands out, and the ending does commit to a bold visual idea that I found quite interesting, if a bit inconclusive. Even if you can't outline the lore step by step, you still remember how all these moments felt and how they looked. But, and this is important, there were times where I wanted just a little bit more. I love symbolic storytelling, I enjoy interpreting themes, that is not how you say that word but we're going to carry on anyway, but when nearly every major story beat is abstract, it can start to blur together. A few clearer anchors along the way really would have sharpened the impact without ruining the mystery for me. But again, this is just a personal preference. I think they got the balance a bit wrong here. For me, Little Nightmares 2 managed to find that balance between pure story and mysterious and interpretation perfectly. So I know Tassier are capable of doing better than this. However, I actually do think that this is an area where Reanimal is better than Little Nightmares 3. I sadly did not care much for the story of Little Nightmares 3. That could be due to Supermassive not being as well versed in covert storytelling as Tassier are, but regardless, even if I think a little more clarity would have been nice, I still think Reanimal has a better story. Also, here's a little side thing for you, the characters speak. Now, we're not going to exaggerate this, they're not getting into extended conversations and expanding relationships through dialogue. It's more like the occasional line here and there, or a brief comment during a tense moment. That's it. It doesn't change the experience as such, and it feels more like Tarsier were just experimenting with it, but it did catch me off guard, and I think it's worth mentioning. Although the thought of a Tarsier game incorporating the Focus M meme is bone-chilling. Thankfully that doesn't happen. Length is one of the more divisive aspects of Reanimal, I would imagine. My co-op partner and I rolled credits, picked up the Platinum Trophy, and unlocked the secret ending in just over 4 hours. That includes a fair bit of casual exploration and a few deaths along the way, so a focused playthrough could be even shorter. It is a tightly paced experience with very little filler, which gives it a very clean storybook quality, but it also means that the journey is over almost as soon as you've settled into its rhythm. That brevity makes the £35 to £40 price tag a tougher sell unless you already have a soft spot for Tarsier's style like I do. If you love the studio's previous work like I did, the condensed runtime feels like a concentrated dose of what they do best. If you're on the fence, then you may find yourself wishing for a few more chapters to justify the cost, especially given how quickly you can see everything the game has to offer, not just the main story, everything. No game escapes a little nitpick corner, and Reanimal provides a few eyebrow-raising moments that feel more like minor gremlins than deal-breakers. The most notable one is the load time after dying. When a chase goes wrong or a jump falls short, the screen will fade out and then stay black for too long. It's not catastrophic, it's not going to ruin the game for you, but it's long enough for you to glance at your phone, question your life choices, and then remember you were being hunted by a nightmare creature seconds earlier. It's long enough to take you out of the immersion, although thankfully the game is extremely well checkpointed. The combat of the game is also there. I'm not expecting fireworks in the combat department from a game like this, but it literally is just spamming the attack button. I think for an experience centered around being cinematic and immersive, the combat just feels a bit too gamey, but you barely ever do it, so I don't think it's a massive deal. Co-op introduces a couple of quirks as well. Trophy progress doesn't always register for both players, which led to us having to reload checkpoints so that we could both get the trophy. However, this only seems to happen with the miscellaneous ones and the chair collectibles. All other collectibles seem to count for us both, which I thought was strange. Where's the line drawing here? There was also a very strange moment where a monster appeared on my friend's screen, but not on mine. He was asking how we were going to get around it, and simply did not believe me when I said it was not there. So after all that creeping, climbing, splashing and the occasional co-op bickering session, where do I land on the big question? Is Reanimal better than Little Nightmares 3? I didn't hate Little Nightmares 3. I enjoyed my time with it, even if it felt like a noticeable step down from Little Nightmares 2 and 1, and the change in developer was hard to ignore. Its chase sequences are harsher, more frequent, and in some cases more inventive from a gameplay standpoint. There's a relentless edge to them that Reanimal rarely matches. But Reanimal has something that I felt was missing. There is a cohesion to its tone, a confidence in its visual storytelling, and a willingness to linger on strange, haunting imagery that has still stayed with me a week or so, wherever it is now, after the game came out. Even when the narrative drifts into abstraction, the themes of sacrifice, conflict and collapse give you enough threads to pull on. I found myself thinking about what I'd seen, replaying the moments in my head, and trying to piece together what everything meant. Cinematically, it's on another level. The framing, the pacing of the reveals, the way scenes unfold without a single line of dialogue when they don't need one, all feels carefully shaped to leave an impression. And while the game is easier, shorter, and occasionally rough around the edges, I felt more connected to the journey as a whole. Little Nightmares 3 may offer more challenge and a steadier stream of set pieces, but Reanimal left the deeper mark for me. If you're choosing between the two, I think you'd have to go with Reanimal. It's a haunting, cohesive experience that I absolutely loved playing through, despite a few little nitpicks here and there. If you made it this far into the video, then thank you very much. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then leaving a like and a comment telling me you liked it would really make my day. If you wanted to see more videos from me, then subscribing is always a great option, because I upload at least one video a week. And also, we have recently enabled memberships on the channel, so if you wanted a way to support the videos and get early access to future videos, then that option is there, but there's absolutely no pressure, and either way, that is all for now. I will see you very soon. Have a nice day, and goodbye.